Welcome to Life on Life Discipleship with Josiah Jones. This is a space where faith gets real. We're all about authentic discipleship, encouraging conversations and practical ways to live out your faith every day. No fluff, no cliches, just real talk about following Jesus and building others. Let's do this.
Well, hey guys, welcome to the Life on Life podcast. I'm here with my good friend, JD Rogers. Some of you know him as John David.
What's up, everyone? Happy to be here.
God's good, man.
Yeah, how did, I guess people are probably wondering, one, we were at the Porch together. So if you don't know that, Porch, Young Adult Ministry in Dallas, part of Watermark Community Church. And you and I did ministry together for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And then now neither one of us are at the Porch. So,
well, JD, you know this. You introduced me to a dear friend of ours, a guy named Eric Gomez, and his sweet wife, Keisha. Many months ago, you were speaking at a young adult event, and you said, hey, why don't you come along? And I'm like, I'm in. And lo and behold, Eric was the brains behind that young adult event. He was leading the whole charge, and we just became friends. Fast forward, Eric reaches out, says, man, I'm starting a podcast called 23 Media, just a slew of people that are going to jump on and be a part of this movement of just curating information, and then we're going to take that to the people in different cities across the nation. And so he asked me to jump on and talk about discipleship out of all things.
Makes sense.
Makes
a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's a passion point of mine. And so, why do we need another podcast? I asked that question over and over and over. Well, as I started listening to different podcasts when it came to discipleship, it was a lot of knowledge base. And I think this discipleship is going to be different. That's why we're calling it Life on Life. And it stems from 1 Thess 2:8, which just says they loved him so much that they not only shared the gospel with them, but they shared their very own life. And so most people, when they think about discipleship, they think about just the transfer of knowledge from one man to another. And in 1 Thessalonians 2:8, it doesn't say just they shared the gospel or knowledge. It says they shared their very own life. So discipleship has to be more than just knowledge transferring to another man or woman. It has to be life transferring to that person. And so I'm pumped about that, and I want to just share some key truths that I've learned along the way.
It is true, though. Like, in all seriousness, like, you are, when I think of someone who exemplifies life on life, who they bleed relationships, they bleed discipleship. It's like just what their heart beats for. They're passionate about it. I think of Josiah Jones. So I do think that it is, I would tell you straight up, that. We have stories of moments where I've told you something straight up and you didn't talk to me for 3 days. And at the Porch, that was like what you did. I mean, you were always with guys. You were always with young leaders, always pouring into them. Discipleship. It's like you were the discipleship guy. And then now tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and how you and your family are. That's kind of like your sole mission now, is to make disciples and train people, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you're doing.
Yeah, man, thanks for asking that, because it's been a journey, and I know it's been a journey for you. So I'm going to come back to you with the same question. But really, when we started thinking about what was next for my family and I just started thinking about, what I've done the last 17 years. And that was being in the local church, and I love the local church. It's a passion point of mine. And so I was on the goal line with 3 other churches by God's grace, and was going to go and be integrated into their mission. And most of the opportunities were to be a campus pastor. And I was pumped about that. Mm-hmm. But then some guys that I discipled over the last 5 years came to me and said, hey, what do you think about taking the discipleship that you poured into us over the last few years and replicating that to the men in Dallas? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, man, I don't know. It's a different approach. It's a different way of thinking when it comes to discipleship. And we started praying, and we couldn't deny it. God began to share with us that this was what I bled, and if I could do this for a living, why not? And so we took about 4 months off. Like I said, I was in ministry for 17 years, and mm-hmm. we took a sabbatical at the end of August going into September, and we prayed, we fasted, we did all those things, and God made it abundantly clear that this was our next step. And so I'm fired up to take what you and I actually embodied together in our relationship, which I'm pumped to talk about, but even in just the relationships that I had with many men over the last few years here in Dallas, and try to see that replicated in the men in Dallas and beyond.
Something you just said that I really love is the people who asked you to start a discipleship program were the men that you were discipling. It's that just to me is a testament to that why you're the guy for the job, because I think a lot of men would want to put themselves in that position, but the fact that it was people who have been led by you, walk with you, have walked underneath you, have watched you live out your life, that are saying, hey, we are passionate about this starting locally, and when we think of someone who needs to lead this, we think of you. That says a lot about, like, you have the credibility. I don't know if there's a better resume for someone fit for the job. It's like when my wife's doctor, she's pregnant. Her doctor, the first time I met him, I met his daughter and his son, and they all worked at the same practice. And I looked at the doctor and I said, that's a testament to who you are as a dad, that your kids, they want to come work with you. Or when you see a pastor and all of his kids are on staff, some people are off put by that. And I'm like, to me, if that dad wasn't doing it right, if he had no work-life boundaries, then the kids would say, I want nothing to do with the church.
That's good.
I want nothing to do with the practice. But the fact that they're like, I want to go study what my dad studied, and then I want to be near my dad to practice the things that I learned.
That's good.
Says a lot. It brings a lot of, like, this person has to have his priorities in straight. And so similar to you, I think, just for all the young men in Dallas, why I think that Josiah is the guy. He didn't ask me to say this, but when you think about who do I want to follow, who do I want to train me in the ways of Christ, it's I want someone that when you look at the people closest to them, what do they say? And what do the people around them, how do they view that person? And that's just a really cool thing that I didn't know that it was the 5 guys that you disciple who are like, hey, will you come lead this movement of discipleship? And so if you are a young guy, I'm not in Dallas anymore. Again, we'll talk about that. But if you are a young man in Dallas, where can they go? What is Armada? Like, how do they become a part of that? What does that look like practically?
Well, I wish I could say right now that we had it all laid out, but we're building it as we're flying it. Honestly, we're starting a grassroots movement. So there's no website. We're building that. There's not really a social media. There kind of is though.
No website.
Armada Discipleship is where you can go, Instagram, but you're not going to find much there.
Yeah.
No post. But what I love about this movement is it truly is word of mouth. I mean,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
If I was going to start a discipleship movement, I would probably want it to first start.
Yeah, it's
transferred man to man.
That's right, man. It's not systematized. It's not programmatized, and we don't even have a plan to really do that. It's becoming who you are as a man in Christ, and then trying to replicate that to other men, but not just through a program. And we can get into all that later, but there's not really anywhere to go other than you can email me at jjones@armadadiscipleship.org. So
love it.
There you go.
Well, y'all have met, right? Y'all have met.
We do meet.
So what is that?
So really the way that's played out right now is there's groups. So there's about 31 discipleship groups that have been deployed across the city. But again, all that has been word of mouth. And I just started 2 months ago.
Yeah.
3 months ago. And then there's a gathering the last Monday of every month. And that's at Communion Co-working Space right off 75 and Beltline right here in Dallas, Texas. And then there's getaways. So those are just kind of the alliterations, the G's, right? So gathering, groups, and getaways. And getaways, just we want to mobilize guys to go on retreats with their groups and get them out of Dallas and expedite relationships and do more life on life in that approach as well. So that's the model right now when it comes to Armada.
Is there a target? What does Armada mean? What is that?
So it's a fleet of ships going into battle.
Oh.
And so, as men, we're in a battle every day. I mean, we're battling our flesh, we're battling Satan, and we're battling the world. But many men are walking around and they don't even know they're in a battle.
Yeah.
So how can they even begin to engage in that battle if they don't know that they're in one? And so it's helping men realize every day, man, you got things pulling against you and you got things coming at you.
Yeah.
And so we're helping men not only identify the battle, but engage in it.
What is like the demographic? Is it single men?
It's intergenerational.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of young adults in their 20s and 30s but we want Armada to be intergenerational. So you got the older generation, more seasoned vets discipling the younger, but there's also 30s and 40s discipling 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine in our mind. And then the older seasoned vets are discipling the group leaders, the discipleship group leaders, which is just an amazing way to think about how to connect both generations. Because honestly, man, I've been in the church for a long time and I absolutely love the church. But one of the challenges we continually face is how do we bridge the gap of generations? And so we're pumped just to roll this out and see what God does. And by no means, I never want to sit here and say we have coined and figured out discipleship. We are learning just like everyone else is.
Yeah.
But we're pumped about what God's called us to do.
Yeah. So just if I'm a Dallas guy listening to this and I want to get plugged in, you said first I can email you.
Yep.
What was the email again?
jjones@armadadiscipleship.org.
Okay. And then you meet the last Monday of every month.
Yep.
We're at
Dallas, Texas, Communion Co-working Space, 75 and Beltline.
Okay.
The last Monday of every month.
And then there, I will learn how I could get a part of one of these groups
That's right.
that you're talking
That's
about
right.
and kind of get plugged into the funnel and the community of men doing this.
Totally. And,
Okay.
we have a complete, we're working on an arts team and all that, we'll have a website at some point. I'm not saying we're against any of that or social media. That's all going to come in due time. But it's something sweet about just seeing the word of mouth spread to other men, and they're showing up and hungry for this type of discipleship.
So why are you passionate about discipleship?
Because that's the most fruit that I have seen in my 17 years of ministry. When it comes down to it, getting to preach from stage, hundreds, thousands, it's awesome to see what God does in those spaces. But when it comes down to it, it's one thing to get people to convert, to see salvation's hands go up in the air, walking aisles, coming down front, saying that they want to surrender their life to Christ. It's a whole nother thing to walk them through the mess that comes with committing their life to Christ. And that was true for me. I mean, here I find myself as a junior in college playing baseball, chasing everything underneath the sun, thinking that there was life there. God gets a hold of me. I surrender my life to him. And then I'm like, what's next? I need someone to come alongside and show me the way. And God brought a young man at the time, when I went to Kansas City one summer to play baseball, and he was the chaplain for the Royals and the Chiefs. And he invested in me that entire summer. He let me live with him in his basement. Wow. He had 3 other kids. I mean, I watched him, do chapels. I jumped into meetings that he had. He would let me just jump in the car when his, kids were playing sports. We would share meals together. It was amazing. So I got to see him in all different phases of life, whether he was a father or a husband. I mean, he brought me into meetings when they had conflict with their family. And so I remember that summer walking away saying, this is what I want to give my life to. And I want it to look different than just showing up to a Bible study or to a church within the 4 walls and just sitting down and learning more knowledge, which I need. We all need that. We all need great theology, doctrine, but there has to be something different where you actually see the gospel lived out.
Right.
Because more of discipleship is caught, not taught.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a lost art, and that's why I'm excited for this podcast. That's why I'm excited for Armada and what you're doing, because I feel like we know culture has never been more divided. It's never been more isolated. We seemingly are more connected than we ever have been in history by ways of social media, technology, all the things. But the reality of that is it's a lie, because the depression rates are higher than they've ever been, suicide rates higher than they've ever been, anxiety rates. And a lot of that is because people are just sitting alone with their own thoughts, circulating over and over and over, and they're just spiraling lower and lower, just more and more depressed and anxious and all the things. And I feel like so many of today's problems are because there is a discipleship problem. You can chase so many things back to the lack of discipleship in someone's life. So many men are passive men who don't want to be in relationships because they were never properly discipled. They would rather just sit around, be fed by pornography, get a quick fix there, go do the 9-to-5 thing, play video games. They don't know how to be men. Why? They weren't properly discipled. It's the divorce rate higher than it's ever been. Why? Because these men aren't being discipled and they don't know what to do in the face of conflict. They don't know what to do in financial strain and situations. You know, we have people that they're addicted and they have so many issues, and you could point it back to what would be different about this man's life if he were discipled? Like, what would be different? And then I bet if you were to look at the story of every person who had the story you just described, who's been discipled, I bet it's night and day.
Oh yeah.
Night and day. And so I do think, and something I want to talk about is, if that's the case, why does it seem like it's a dying practice in the church? Like, if that's the case, if it's true, because as someone now who's just been doing a lot of observing, I've done a lot of like church hopping from church to church. And it seems like what the church is getting really good at is, I'm just going to say it, like, it's lacking a lot of life on life, in my opinion. They say that's what groups are for, and they say that's what like they're trying to create, but trying to get thousands of people to truly do life on life is, I don't envy that mission.
Right.
But it feels like what's actually happening is on the flip of it's kind of looking a lot like culture. And like, we come in, we do the thing for an hour and 15 minutes. You go home, you see your group for an hour, or you see your guys for an hour, and we just do the thing, right? It's anything but life on life. And I think because of that, a lot of people are like, I tried the church thing and it's not really what I'm looking for.
Well, one of the reasons why you're on this podcast, not just that there's chemistry. I mean, when I think about who I could have had on right away, there was no question in my mind. It was JD Rogers, because our relationship exemplified this, but it hadn't always been that way. I mean, we lived a ton of life together, JD, in
a small window of time. I mean, we still are, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't like you. I didn't like you the first year.
Okay.
I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, I did not like JD Rogers.
Okay. You're not alone, I'm sure.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
But it had more to do with me than you. I mean, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
But I just want people to know, you know, people are going to hate and say, oh, you brought JD on, he's got a big following, or he's charismatic. He's, you are a 5-tool player. I think you're phenomenally like talented. But the reason why I brought you on, none of those things. It's because of our relationship. It's because we exemplified what we're going to talk about over the next 5 episodes, and really for the life of this podcast. I mean, we did so much life together in such a small time.
Yeah. So,
but let's talk about how our relationship.
Let's talk about how you hated me before we get to the good. So I moved to Dallas. I'm 25, single. Got a call from a pastor. I was working at Breakaway in College Station. I was living my life, and I get this random call. Hey, we're trying to take more creative steps at our church. It's a church in Dallas called Watermark. I had never really heard of Watermark, honestly. I'm from a small country town in East Texas, and I'd never lived in a big city. I had lived in East Texas. My college was in East Texas, in Nacogdoches, Texas. And then
Where'd you go?
SFA,
okay,
Axum Jacks. And my first job, I traveled. Can I talk a moment about my first job?
You should talk.
I think a lot of people don't know about this part of my life, and I would like to talk about it.
Go for it.
Okay. My first job, I was not making a lot of money. I'll just say that. Okay. Shocker there. But it was
a ministry job?
It was a ministry.
Of course you weren't making a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Episode 6.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Basically got pursued by, there's Kanakuk camps, and the president, his name's Joe White, he asked me to come tour coast to coast. He did this evangelical event called After Dark. After Dark was a one-night event on college campuses that would go tour to colleges all over the nation. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to be on planes, and I'm going to be like traveling with this really cool like evangelist. Like, this is going to be a great first ministry job. All right. What I would do, and I'm thankful for this season. I want to start by saying that. But what they would have me do is I would go to the headquarters in Branson, Missouri. So I lived in Branson, Missouri, first off. If you've been to Branson, It's an interesting place to live, really, if you've ever visited. And I would load up this working truck with a cross on the top that he would use in his like drama skit. And then I would also help stack it with these like Bible study booklets that we would give to students after the event. So I would fill up the truck, literally like talk about take up your cross, I would strap it in, and then I would drive to whatever campus we were going to be like coming to, you know? So I would get there first, about 3 or 4 weeks early. And imagine the looks of like, you're in this big company truck and this like cross is like on top and you're driving like on campus and like students are like, you know, what's going on? And
do you have a picture of this?
I'll look for a picture.
We got to find a picture.
And so I'm out here, and then sometimes I would get there 3-4 weeks because my job was not just to bring the cross, it was then to market the event. So no marketing would be done. I would get there. I would have to form a team of students, and then we would have to just pass out flyers on campus. I had people flip me off, take the flyer, rip it in my face. You know, I'd be like, you know, I'm out here getting martyred for Jesus. Call me Paul. And I would, so then they would sometimes they would be like, hey, you're going to sleep on this student's couch. Do you know what it's like sleeping on like a freshman's couch in college? Okay. One time I was in South Carolina. I had decided for whatever reason to do the Daniel fast, which if you don't know what that is, 21 days, nothing but nuts, fruits, and vegetables. So I'm already miserable. Okay. I'm at a low. It's like winter. It's cold. I pull up to South Carolina. Everyone's got like green hair on campus. They all hate me.
You're in sackcloth and ashes.
Yeah. And then that night they say, oh, we're going to take you to where you're staying. And I'm like, okay, here we go. They pull me up to the Baptist student ministry. They put me in this room with this cold floor. It didn't even have a light. Okay. And the light was the window. So it would get dark at 4:30. The sun would go down. I'd have to use my laptop light to air up my air mattress. But then guess what? It had a hole in it. So then like, it'd be like all night, this sound. And then like at like 3 a.m. I'd like wake up to like being flat, like cold on the floor. And I had to like, you know, pump it up again. And I just remember, and then the event would happen. Obviously he built the cross. I would take the chipped cross now back to the headquarters and then just head to the next campus for a year.
Wow.
And because a lot of people, you know, they make assumptions. Obviously, it's what we do, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I remember at the porch, a lot of people be like, this guy, he just wants to be as, you know, this fell into his lap, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even saying that because I did this, I got to do that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying this stuff has always like, we both, I think, something we share is we've always loved it. It's always been...
It's a calling.
Yeah, it's because in that time, no matter how much it sucked, the relationships I got to make along the way were the best part. Yeah. And that's always been what's been really cool about each ministry job I took in my 20s is the relationships along the way and the discipleship that I received and I got to do. That's what gave me like life. It was what was so amazing. And we'll talk about this in a second, but the lowest part of my ministry, like the burnout of my ministry, if you look at it, what's interesting is a correlation was it was also at the time where I was the most depleted of like discipleship, like getting to do discipleship. Like the thing that like I loved, because if you take that out and you're just doing it, it's a scary place to be because it's just such a heavy ministry is so heavy, you know? So I get the call, I go to break away from that job in A&M. Then I get the call, hey, we want you to come do the Institute 10-month Bible school at Watermark and come help kind of be like creative director, whatever. And at the time they put me on Watermark's production team. Fine with me. Okay. I'm on the production team. I'm learning about, it's this huge church, you know, I'm single. I'd never seen a church like this in my life. I walked in, I'm like, what in the REI is going on here? REI. And it is like so big and the staff was so big. And I remember like sitting in my first staff prayer and they would just be like, the pastor would just be like, so-and-so, recite this verse. And they'd have to stand up and recite it. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, please don't call on me. And it was just this different animal that I was like, what is this? I've never seen ministry like this. My team before that was like, I think 8 people. My team before that was like 3 of us. And so
And the team before that was one. That was you.
Yeah. So I was just, wide-eyed, like, whoa, this is crazy. And I'm doing the Bible school. I'm on the production team. And then one day I got asked to come sit on a podcast with the young adult ministry, which you guys, Josiah, before we get into that, tell them how you got to the porch.
Well, my entire ministry started in the Midwest, like yours. It was in Kansas City. Was living in a basement with the host family that took me in the summer before when I was playing baseball, and they gave me a job with Young Life, and I didn't know anything about ministry. I mean, I grew up in the church, but my parents divorced at a young age, and so I had no, recollection of really church. It was kind of like a foreign thing to me, and now I'm thrown in to a pretty substantial ministry that's nationwide, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I loved it. I loved just sharing the gospel. I know God had done a work in my heart. So fast forward, I jump out of ministry and I go coach at James Madison University because I love baseball and I had to scratch that itch. But God just kept opening doors to do ministry. So I went down to Granbury, Texas, where all singles go to die, and I became a youth pastor and helped a buddy of mine plant a church. Fast forward, I'm in Kansas City, just started a young adult ministry about 5.5 years before that, and I get a call from the pastor then at Watermark and the young adult pastor asking me, hey, would you consider coming down and joining our team in what God's doing here at Watermark through the young adults at the porch? And so I was like, man, you sure you got the right number? I always come to y'all's conferences, and my wife and I used to go to the porch when we were dating. And then I took the playbook of the porch and ran it up in Kansas City, and just had a great relationship with those guys. Come down and just totally moved, everything that we had known, and we loved being in Kansas City. Great relationships, doing ministry with some of my best friends, but I couldn't shake this opportunity. And so we moved my family down to Dallas. Couldn't find a house. We moved 4 times in the first year. COVID hit. A lot was happening at that time. You and I meet, and
so you're at Watermark, and you're immediately joining the porch team.
Immediately.
Yeah. So I'm not. I'm on the production team.
That's right.
Which y'all have to know, like, on a staff that big, like, you have to really be intentional about crossing over into different, like, it's just a lot of people. It's like, what, 200 when the institute's like there? That. It's like over 200 people on staff, I think. And so we never really intersected a lot when I was on the production team. But
everybody knew JD when he came to the campus.
Okay.
When he stepped foot at Watermark.
Why? Because I was wearing a Fear God hoodie.
You made a dent in multiple ways, right?
Okay, well,
you didn't dress like everybody else.
Yeah,
you had different ideas outside the box. So I loved it.
So, but my point is one day, the director of the porch, he asked me to come listen in on a Views from the Porch podcast.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, I'm an institute student, so like basically an intern. So it's like anytime any director is like, come do this, you're like, I'm going to come learn something about ministry. So I'm in the room, and I remember he looked at me and was like, what do you think about this? What's your feedback? What's this? And I'm like, oh, I would talk about this, whatever. And then out of that, he was like, hey, like, we're always looking for young single guys, like young single girls to come do announcements at the porch and want to come do announcements one week. And I was like, sure. And I'm usually the guy I was at the porch serving as like the producer. Remember, I would like have the headset on, and I would be on the front. I'd be like, okay, now David, go on stage, or here's your mic, all that kind of stuff. That's what I did. And so that week, it was really weird taking off the headphones and having like someone handing me the mic. And I remember that moment being like, this is crazy. Like, this thing, there are so many people here, and like, how am I just getting to be allowed to get up here? That's what I felt like, And I'm like, but I'm also just giving announcements. And so I'm going to get up there. I'm going to invite people to the sand volleyball tournament this weekend or whatever it was. And I get up there, and I remember in that moment, it was like something that it was like these people feel like my people. That's what it felt like for me. The moment I got off stage, I remember I got a text from the director, and he said, hey, can we talk after? And that was when he said, if you're okay, we want to ask our leadership if we can move you from the production team to the porch team. And we want you to consider trying out preaching a sermon, and we'll just see where it goes from there. And I'm like, a what? Like, I've never preached a sermon in my life. Like, what is happening? So that now, all of that context is not to like just tell my own ministry story. It's because it has direct impact now on our relationship, because now the leadership approved it. And now I'm not going to the production team meetings anymore. I have my backpack, I have my Bible, and I am proudly walking in.
I remember it as clear as day.
My first porch meeting. And I am like, I can't wait. And I walk in and then introduce, that's where we meet.
That's where we meet.
And how did it go?
Who is this guy? That's what I'm thinking, right? I'm like, this guy just expedited so quickly to do things that I'm like, where's my shot? You know, what's going on here? This 25-year-old punk coming in thinking that he knows everything.
I did not.
And no, it wasn't that, but that was my own insecurity, right? And I suppressed that insecurity for so long.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, man. Bible says not to hate, but I was pretty close.
To hating me?
Yes, dude.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Why would you hate me?
That's dark. That's dark.
That is dark.
Well, because it revealed insecurities about me that I didn't want to face.
I mean, okay. Yeah. Well, yes.
Right.
Okay, it's funny because now, like, looking back, you got to realize in my perspective, I'm like, again, I'm learning my Bible.
Yeah.
I'd never been professionally, I guess the right word, taught the Bible. And then I'm being asked to preach the Bible, which looking back, I'm like, I don't know if that was the best call. Maybe give me like another couple years, but hey, it was a crazy time in the church. And all of this to me, like, I'm not really noticing social cues or whatever. I'm like, but now looking back and knowing this, I'm like, oh yeah, you were totally like, in my mind, you were like the scary jock bro that was like the disciple guy. And you'd always walk around with like the business young adults, like they'd like be following you in a pack of like Jesus on the Chosen. They'd be like you, and then like your 12 disciples with like,
and you had all the Gen Zs though.
Patagonia vests and their Bibles, and they'd be all like, they have beards. And I'm like, whoa, look at those. It's like the baseball
Who
team.
was following you?
No.
Bunch of Gen Zs and hoodies.
No.
And Crocs.
No.
Yes.
So it was Crocs. That was a good era.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, like, I would say if you said you were insecure of me, I would say if I was anything towards you, I was intimidated by you. So obviously those two things are going to stand like in opposition and create distance. And so we go through a whole year of ministry. You hate me, apparently.
That's strong.
No.
I'm just saying it.
No, be real. And I'm clueless. So I'm probably just unintentionally adding fuel to the fire of your hate. I'm like, making TikToks in the office and doing stuff like that. Yeah. And you're like, I can't stand this guy. And I started preaching a lot.
Yeah.
And I started doing announcements like every week.
Yeah, you got the mic overnight. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
You got the mic. And you're a decade younger than me at this point. Like you're 25, I'm 35.
And you had been preaching at your last, you were the guy, you were the director at your last ministry.
I stepped aside, did more.
Well, you were one
leadership.
of the top
I was
guys,
one of the communicators,
like that.
for sure.
You were preaching more, and here you kind of thought you had this. What was your expectation? It was like, I'm gonna preach.
The expectation was I was gonna preach. I would say 8-10 times a year.
Yeah,
and that began to shrink. Yeah, and I'm like, what? Who? No way.
And and
so I began to bow up. In my insecurity.
Yeah. And distancing.
And distance myself from you.
Yeah.
And, even probably involve myself in some chatter with gossip. And
you did?
Yeah. We talked about that. Yes, dude. I was a part of that.
I forgot.
I came and apologized. I owned it. Yeah. Gossip can be that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But gossip's a real thing on a church staff. Right? JD, you're a talented dude. And let's just be honest.
Okay.
I love your face.
I don't know what to say.
You're a talented guy.
Thank you.
And I'm a very competitive guy. Mm-hmm. And so when I meet my match, and I was really no match. I mean, God began to expedite your voice way beyond mine. I praise God for that today.
But what's so funny about that is like I had no idea what I was doing, and I want to point out because this is all going somewhere. Like we're not just sharing story time to share a story, like our friend's story. This is going somewhere. So for me, imagine a young single. My dad was a pastor. He had died a few years before that. I'm getting, and then 2020 hits, and I have this immense weight of leadership on myself.
Yeah,
and think of how differently that first year of preaching, when I was so nervous and insecure and all of the temptation with it and all of that. Think of how different it could have been for our relationship had you immediately gotten near and chosen, like, maybe I'm not called to preach right now, but I could disciple him.
That's right.
Like, think of like, and I'm not saying that
and we got there.
Yes, we did.
got there, but it took a while.
Yes.
And we lost precious time. I just wonder how many people are out there right now that have a similar relationship, or they're near someone that are experiencing.
Yeah. Or like, they're like, I can't say the word. I don't like that guy or whatever. Like, that guy's full of himself and they're putting it on him, but really it's, I don't want to address all the things that person makes me feel. And so why would you say me specifically? Was it because of the opportunity, or why did you feel like, as a guy a decade older than me, why were you so insecure about it?
At the core of my insecurity was jealousy. That's it. I mean, I was jealous.
Of what?
Of what you were getting. You know, the platform you were getting, the voice you had, the stage, the mic, all those things, even behind the scenes. I mean, even doing this this podcast, I'm like, what? I'm doing a podcast, you know? But why would I not? It's like God's redeeming some of those things, but God had to go to work on my heart. God had to teach me that, man, there's some work inside of your heart that is not godly. It's not right. And it's going to keep you from doing the things that I want you to do. It's going to keep you from being the man that I want you to be. And it's going to keep you from having relationships that I want to give you. And
so that comes all to a head where one night I preached, and then you said, hey, can I talk to you after? Right. And of course you get the text like, hey, can we talk? I'm like, oh God, like, I don't want to, I'm scared. Like, what's he going to say? He's going to tell me my sermon was heretical, or is he going to tell me that he thinks I suck at preaching? Like, what's it going to be about? I had no idea what he talked to me about. We got in my car. We went and got some food, I think, came back to the Watermark parking lot. It was late. And you let me in on all of that. Yeah. And there were tears and just a year of all this built up stuff. And of course, I'm just like, I'm like blown away because how I viewed you, I'm like, I can't believe you have felt that way. And I didn't know. But
what are you insecure about, Jack boy? You know,
exactly. And then I tell you, like, man, here's how I felt towards you. I've just like kind of looked up to you from afar, and I've always just like, kind of like, you're the guy and all this stuff. And so it was just so funny how many things broke in that moment of vulnerability.
Oh, the dam broke. But it broke when I was willing to face my insecurity. Yeah. Which at the core of that was jealousy, but I had to say it. I had to name it, which that's a vulnerable place because you could have took that and ran with it, or mismanaged information, or, you know, not responded well to me. Because I think that's what people's fears are on the other side of being vulnerable when they name their insecurity. And so many people just stay so vague, and they're, I'm just insecure about such and such. Yeah. Well, what's at the core of that? Mine was jealousy. Yeah. And when I named it, it did something to our relationship. You remember? Yeah. How you responded?
I mean, yeah. I was first, obviously I was thankful you told me. And then I was like, dude, like I want to be your friend, and I want you have total permission to speak into my life. And it was just immediate grace, and like, let's be friends. If like, that's all I want is to be friends. And
I told you as a 25-year-old, man, there's things that you have that I don't, and I want you to sharpen me in those. And then it started this relationship where we truly were iron for each other. As Proverbs 17.
Yeah, I would say it turned to
iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. 17.
17. And that's where I think life on life and our relationship, our context context begin. And that's why I think you said, we tell all that to say, like, I think that's why you're having me on, because now I have walked with you since that day.
That's right.
You've walked with me. One, you've said that I think it's important that if there's something that is causing division between you and other men, you need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You need to go to them and you need to say it. You need to speak it, be honest, be vulnerable. So many men are so terrible about being vulnerable. They like don't know how. I don't get it personally. I don't understand, but I think it's a lack of awareness with emotions. I think there's a lot of suppression. I think a lot of culture says like men don't talk this way.
Yeah.
But we all crave it. Like if we're being honest, we all want to be known. We all want to share our life and then people share theirs with us.
That's
like
right.
we crave that. And so I think one, just kind of getting over that pride and accepting like, I want to be known. I want to be close and be vulnerable in that.
Yeah. Most men truly see weakness as weakness.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the Bible would say the opposite. Weakness is actually your strength.
Yeah.
That's why Paul says, hey, I boast about my weakness.
Yeah.
Because when I'm made weak, he's made strong. And that's what I tried to do in that moment. I'm like, man, I have a weakness in our relationship that's killing it.
Yeah. And then after that, we really did begin to do life on. You brought me over to your house. You know, your kids became super special to me, your wife. Along the way, I meet my wife. And
Yeah, you did. That's a whole nother podcast.
yeah. And ministry really kind of exploded for the both of us, I would say. And like we did it together. So things are looking really good. And I was okay with kind of you talking about your insecurity and all of that, because I knew where I wanted to go with my story in this with you is it, you know, you can say, man, you were so talented. You were so this, you were so that. All of that's great. And all of that was good until it wasn't. Because for me, why I think this conversation is so important and why I think it's so important that anyone listening, if you don't have a life on life type of friendship, like this is why I believe you need to find it, and why it's so important is because when it was good, and that was great. And we were growing as friends. But when my life hit rock bottom, when I lived in Dallas, when it hit rock bottom in 2022, I don't know if I would have made it out had I not had these types of friendships. If I did not have these type of relationships, I'm not kidding. There was so much shame and self-hatred in my life that I truly don't know where I would be today without them. But all of that began, no one's planning their life of hitting rock bottom. Like I had no idea that's where I was heading.
Right.
So you have to start today. Like don't try to start finding relationships when life gets tough. Like start today finding those types of people. If people you can't be honest with, vulnerable with, excited with, people that you can just be yourself with fully. If you don't have it, fight for it.
Yeah.
Find it. Because for me, you know, we had that first year I was preaching, 2020 hit, which then just blew it all up.
For everybody.
Our church went through crazy leadership transition. I would say that our 3 years, mine there, were probably the lowest of that church's
That's right.
history. Would you agree with that?
yeah.
Is that a fair statement? Like,
yeah.
in terms of their story, and I was in a lot of it, weirdly. I like somehow intersected.
Half of our week was spent in meetings.
Yeah, and it messed me up. And my heart got far from the heart of ministry, the heart of God. I got so cynical. I got so like, because the hard part of that was, but then the ministry kept going. Tuesday nights kept coming, and I'm preaching when all of this is going on, and it just turned into performative, and I escaped and I coped, and in that all of this stuff happened, and a lot of people know about this, but August 5th, 2022, I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of regrets, a lot of decisions around alcohol. And I found myself, my wife was there, and I'll just say she was super, super mad at me. She was like, we had 7 months into marriage, and when she married me, she married the guy that you saw, like the 5 talent guy. It's easy to fall in love with the preacher that's everyone's laughing
That's right.
at and all this stuff. And then 7 months in, can you imagine you're taking care of him and he's blackout drunk? Like, I put her in that position, and I didn't even know how I got to that position, if I'm being honest. It was like just a bomb went off, and there's so much there, and you know about all of it. When everything exploded the next day, she's like, I don't want to talk to you, but I think we should go to the Jones family's house. I think we should call Josiah and Kathy. And of course, everything in me is like, no, I don't want to, but I also knew, yes, you're right. And I remember we drove in silence. We told you we need to come over. It was late. We drove over in silence. We walk in. We tell you everything that happened. And the first thing you did was you just reminded me of the gospel. And you preached the gospel to me. And y'all were the first people who knew. And I just remember feeling so ashamed. And but then immediately, someone I really cared about, the fact that out of everything you could have said, and then knowing even how you viewed me at the time, like I was kind of afraid that you were going to immediately jump into like, are you a fraud? Do I even know you? And you were like, I do know you. And I know that what you did is not who you are. Here's who you are.
Yeah.
And you preached the gospel to me.
Yeah.
And then at the end of processing all of that, starting to working through all of it and starting to begin the healing journey, you said, do y'all think that you could go home tonight, or do you want to stay here? And Jenna said, I would like to stay here. And I said, do you want me to stay here? And she was like, you can stay, but I don't want to sleep in the same bed as you.
Yeah.
So she slept on the couch, and I remember I was sleeping on the floor.
I got you an air mattress.
Yeah, and it stayed inflated.
It stayed inflated.
Here I was back in the air mattress. It's full circle.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
man.
And
I think I even made a joke because I knew part of that story.
I don't know. Probably wasn't the time to make a joke. But
I needed some levity though.
I remember scooting as close as I could to the couch.
Yeah.
Y'all had been to bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no idea where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's gonna happen. And but I think it's over. I remember thinking that. And and some point in that moment, Jenna just grabbed my hand. And that's all she did. And but that was the little whisper of hope that my heart needed to keep going.
Yeah.
And to fight. And to believe that God wasn't done with me. And honestly, this is the first time I've done something like this since that day. Since all of that. And it's been amazing.
I'm so proud of
the
you.
journey.
I'm so proud of you.
And the healing.
Yeah.
We're about to have our second kid, and our marriage.
Testimony of God's grace.
We just love each other so much.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, if you have to have your people that when those moments happen, you can call them. People that when your wife's on the couch and you're on the floor and God chooses to use that significant but small moment, it was y'all's roof that was over our head, and it was y'all's space that provided that moment that began the healing process. And I think there's so many people out there that they're so bogged by shame because they don't have people who will do what y'all did for us. And so that's really all I wanted to end with this episode. I know there's so much more we could say and unpack and all of that, but I just hope that I wanted just to tell people as they continue to live and or listen, and after I'm not on this podcast, I really just want people to know that life on life isn't just a little statement for you.
That's right.
It's real, and it's the good and it's the bad and it's the ugliest parts of someone's life that the church and so many organizations are losing it is because it can get ugly, and it can require so much time to do this kind of life with people. And it can get really messy and at times really hurtful, but it's also God's greatest gift on the flip side. It's so weird. And so I just wanted my life and my story and how it correlates to your life and our relationship to just be an encouragement that all I really wanted people to take away from this episode with me personally is like, find it.
Yeah.
Like, find it. If you don't have someone that you are life on life with, being discipled by, find it.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of it for
mean,
me.
so many people know a lot of people, but they're not known by any. They're not known by any. And you'll never be fully loved until you're fully known. And you never were able to love me until I was fully known with you. And I was never able to love you the way that we loved you and your fam until you were known by me.
Yeah, like everything came out in that
And
time.
what you said is under the roof is where God did his greatest work. And I know God's moving in churches all across America.
Right.
Like, and really when we say church, it's the people. I know God moves in the building of those churches, but we got to get not just to the building, but we got to get under people's roofs.
Yeah, in their home.
Thank you, JD. I love you so much,
Love
bro.
you too.
Seriously. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the Life on Life podcast. Man, we are thankful for 23 Media. None of this would be possible without those guys. So big shout out to Eric and Keisha. We love you as well. Until next time, peace.
See ya.
Later.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Life on Life. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag a friend, and keep the conversation going. Discipleship isn't a program, it's a lifestyle. So go live it out, love people well, and let's make Jesus known.